Would you please tell us your name and your age and where you live now?
Well, my name's Donna. Donna Shortill, Metcalf, and I live in Acton, and I'm turning 61 in August.
And I'm Viola Spear Shortill.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Viola Spear Shortill, and I live here at 575 Watt Street, Fergus, and I'm 88, turned in July 14th.
Did your family settle in or near the Bonafide community?
Yes and no. My family, before we had kids, we were in Stewarttown, then in Ballinafad, then in Erin, then near Osprey, back in Ballinafad, and then in Rockwood, and then in Acton. So we've been all around the area.
The perimeter.
Yeah.
And Viola?
I lived around Ballinafad all my life, only the years we were in Acton. Because I was there when I was young, and then it was to Acton for that many years. From before you were born till
62, so it would be
62.
from 47 till 62.
So do you have any relatives still in the area?
Well, all of my siblings are in the area. My brother's on the 4th line, but he still gets his mail in Acton, or in Ballinafad, but he lives just south of Hillsburg on the 4th line. And he was postmaster at the store, so I think he's kind of tied to the store that way. Bonnie lives here. Arlene lives at Crieff.
Oakwell, that's...
Yeah. And Penny lives in Grand Valley, so we're all kind of in the area. Nobody's right in Ballinafad.
How did your family make a living when they settled in this general area?
Well, for yours, Mom, was farming. Right?
My mom and dad,
Yeah, farming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Be farming.
Was it mixed farming, or did they?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you'd call it mixed farming.
And Donna?
Well, my husband was a plumber, and he trained with my dad, who was a plumber. He was an apprentice with my dad before we got married. And he's now a plumbing, well, he's being a plumbing inspector in the city of Guelph and a building inspector, and now he's doing roads, I think, but we have separated, so I don't my kids kind of keep me informed about what he's doing. And well, I did lots of stuff on the farm growing up, and I know my grandmother always told me, you'll be sorry, don't hoist those bales around. But and my husband loved farming, so he always hobby farmed, although he didn't like it to be called that, because he would help Dad, and then we farmed a lot on our own. And then plumbing was his trade. And I taught high school, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to. And I started teaching when I just turned 21. And so until 2001, actually January 2002, I taught high school. And my kids haven't stayed farming. My one son's an ultrasound tech, and my other son is, right now he's working with migrationexperts.com. It's a .com company in Toronto, but he's got a chance at a job at Second City, and he went to Guelph and drama, so drama's his passion. So I'm seeing him tonight, and the gal he's marrying in the spring, she met him while they were at Guelph, and she's from Markham, and she just got a big position at Theatre Passe Muraille, so they're both in the theatre business. So that's great fun. And so far from farming. You know, like, I don't know that they could even raise a plant.
This is a funny question, but what nationality do you consider yourself? Canadian?
Yes.
Scottish? Irish? Canadian with?
Well, I
attachments?
consider myself totally Canadian, but I like the fact that I can explore my roots, and Irish plays a big part. My trip to Ireland in September will play a big part of that. Doing this with my cousin, long-lost cousin, with the Spear family, that's our English connection. And I always talk to my grandma about the United Empire Loyalists, my grandma Shortill. And she always steeped me in the fascination with that, and where the Loyalists came and settled and why. So that, I would say that's... Now Mom's a little bit different because she's...
Well, see, my mom's dad, Grandpa Allen, he was Irish too, like he was. So there's Irish kind of on both sides of.
Your mum's dad was Irish, but your
That was English.
My dad was English.
dad was English.
Right from London.
Yep.
Right from London, he always said
Right from London. From Pudding Lane.
From
So
Pudding Lane.
Pudding Lane. Grandpa always said from Pudding Lane.
Mom always said, you can tell an Englishman, but you can't tell him much.
That's right. I came from Birmingham, so watch out.
Having lived with Grandpa all those years, I think she...
Okay, we talked about what church you went to. You went to the Methodist church with your mother?
And never went, I don't remember
Ever sitting foot in there?
that I've been going to church.
But after that you went to Falmouth
After
United?
that, we went to Churchill. When I first started to babysit, and the family up the 5th line, that was Bob Kerr's family that I babysat for. And they went to Churchill, and I started going there with them, taking the kids to Churchill Church.
Bob
Kerr.
Kerr.
He had 2 sisters, and he was the youngest. And I babysat them. Well, I more than babysat them. I did everything in the house.
Oh, you were called a mother's helper, weren't you?
Yeah, right.
Did you know the McKay family or the Fallbrook farm?
I knew of them. It was really through 4-H that I had a connection, and the church, and it was mainly through the Keers.
That's right. I was trying to think of their name.
Was it Sandy Keer?
Sandy Keer.
Yeah, and
What's her name?
Catherine.
Catherine. And see, Irene is my age, kinda.
Yeah.
And Irene and I were in 4-H together. And Irene teaches in Georgetown. So we've not renewed acquaintances, but she's seen us at the jewelry booth at a couple of shows and spoken to me. And we're sometimes in Georgetown Mall with our jewelry, and
Yeah.
and she's had a little chat with me. So I lost track of her, but kind of renewed acquaintances with her.
Mm. Okay.
Now I don't know what her married name is.
And Carol, C-A-R-R-O-L-L. Her husband's name is John.
Okay.
They were involved a lot with the Friends of Fallbrook when
Yes.
this was started. Did you ever hear of a First Nations Indian village between Fallbrook and Scottsdale?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I don't think you did, though.
And what did you hear about it?
Not that much, other than the fact that they wanted to restore it and preserve it. I also knew that there was, when they did the construction on the 7th line, there were ruins found, what would be at the foot of Silver Creek Hill. And I know they did
Just a minute, just a minute.
Sorry. Yeah. And that's the Silver Creek Hill that goes down from Silver Creek south, not the one coming up the south, not what we call Grace's Hill, but the other one going down towards where Mert Allison has his farm equipment dealership.
Yeah, after you're on number 7.
Yeah, after you're on number 7.
Oh, after you come off
the
Trafalgar Road and you come around the corner to the lights and turn left and go down the hill.
And on the left going south, so it would be the east side of the road, it held up road construction quite a bit because they had people coming, I think from Guelph, from the university.
South of lights.
Well, you have to be a good writer to do this.
You have to be an even better reader to read what you wrote.
That's right.
That's the first reference I've ever had to that.
Sorry. Now, I don't know that much about it because I wasn't that old.
Any idea of how old you were?
No, I don't. I was old enough that I probably wasn't at university yet, and it was like
Probably 14, I'd say. 14.
when we lived in Mountain Fed, so it would be after I was 14. But and it was something that interested me because my dad was always really
Interested.
yeah, he was a real history of family nut. So, like, and because I was the oldest, I used to go with him a lot, and we would travel picking up plumbing supplies. And Mom would always say, "No, you're going to go with your dad. Okay, just if he asks, you keep him company." And so from the time I was little, and my brother too, we would keep him company because she had the little kids at home. So for us all to go pick up sheet metal or pick up pumps in Fergus, it was quite a trip. And so we would chat about things, and he'll say, "Oh, coming up here on the left," or, "Oh, wait till you see this car," or, you know. And Morley and I knew all the names of all the cars and all that. And but his specialty was cousins. Now, that's your second cousin, once removed. And see, Grandma used to always talk to Dad about that, because he was the oldest. And he'd say to me, "Now, you're the oldest, so you've got to make sure you understand this." And then I would talk to Grandma Shortill, and she had this special drawer where she had all of her stuff. And that was to be what I inherited when she was gone. And it kind of happened because I've got like old stuff, old papers and documents, and
the old Bible.
Yeah, the old Bible, and now it went through my Auntie Lillian first, and because she was the youngest in her family, but she kept it, so she was the last living, and she kept it up until 3 years ago when she passed away. And then I said to all my siblings and my brother and my cousin were executors, and I said, I don't want anything, no furniture, nothing. I just want those photos and papers, because Grandma always said I was to have them. And see, now I feel the responsibility of having to do something with them. And so, and I'm not quite sure what, but you know, this is a good start.
According to Chris, the University of Guelph will be very happy. They have a collection of family Bibles.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll look into that.
Good, good. And you know, you want it to be somewhere safe and somewhere. And my boys don't have the Shortill name. You know, Danny and Mark Shortill, my uncle's boys, are probably interested, but since I'm the oldest, I don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
have a
both of those
responsibility.
boys that are Shortills just have one daughter each.
Yeah.
So there's nobody to carry.
Other than my brother.
Shortill name.
Yeah, my brother had one son. So, and
he's got 2 girls.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's got 2
So
girls at this point
There's nobody to carry on the Shortill name.
in our family.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and sometimes things will be sort of there, and I think, where did I hear that from? And I'll think, well, you know, Dad talked to me a lot about things. So, and even though I wasn't that old, I think things kind of sunk in.
Yeah. Okay. If you happen to think of anything else you know about that,
Yeah. Okay.
please email me, because that's the first. I don't know who.
Now, I don't know where the other village was. If it was up, well, I mean, it could have been anywhere, I guess. But if it was up in, sort of back in from where the roads are, I also remember Grandpa Shortill telling me about, at the bottom of Silver Creek Hill there was a bog, and it was quite a treacherous hill. And I can remember him talking about losing teams of horses in that bog, about wagons going off the road.
Hold on a second. Go slower. Grandpa Shortill told you about bog.
And he'd just say in the old days, or when I was a boy.
Bottom of the hill where?
Well, when you think of it, all that area, like where the gas station, where Grant Baker's former gas station is, all across in there is, it's like a reservoir now for Georgetown, and it's all very wet. So, but I'm not sure where the road, because in my life the road's always been straight up the hill, but with the way Grandpa explained it, it wound around the hill.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
So that's
that was above, not the lower.
Yeah,
Silver Creek,
but the Grace's Hill.
Yeah. And it always went around like that.
Yeah.
So that was Trafalgar Road.
Yeah.
South of Baker.
Let's see, what Mom's saying is north of there, too, is where the road wound around the hill. Too.
Hill. Okay, so
It always scared me.
in that bog, somebody lost a...
Well, it wasn't just one.
Oh.
Grandpa, the way Grandpa explained it is that it was very treacherous, and a loaded wagon going down, because
they were coming down around that sharp curve, and they'd gone off over
and the load would pull the horses in, and I can remember him telling me about people jumping free, and it always scared me, because I could picture it in my mind, you know, a young guy in a wagon jumping free and saving his life, but all his stuff, his team, his whole living, which he was taking to market or to the mill or whatever, would be lost in the bog. And so bogs always scared me, because just the word bog, because I can remember Grandpa telling stories about that. And I don't know how true they are, but I'm sure he wouldn't say stuff.
It's not the first time I've heard about wagon loads and teams being lost.
Yeah. Can you imagine that, though, your prize horses?
It's not just that they were prize horses, it's your everything.
Everything.
They could have been old nags.
They didn't have that much, and you know.
Which is why I think when the law of the land out west was that you couldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't touch a horse.
Couldn't touch a horse.
You see, Grandpa had horses and oxen well after we moved to Ballinfath. He still had I think he still had horses in the barn, didn't he, for a little while?
Yeah.
Molly or somebody.
You gave me a picture of him
with his
as a boy
and
as an old man.
So, and having lived there all his life, like that's kind of a significant thing. I know I have an old movie of it's actually at my uncle's, which is the upper farm, and you can see them working on the 7th line in the background. And we were just kids, and Uncle Dick took a movie that was playing outside, and you can see the construction equipment on the 7th line. And that probably was like 1957, or because I was probably the oldest, and I was probably only 10. So that's kind of a neat movie too.
Okay. So that's what you know about that, eh? I think we've covered we're going to do it for the tape, right? Briefly, are you married? Yes, yes. Into which family and when? You married into the Shortill family in 1947. 47? And you married into
I
the
married,
Metcalf
yeah,
family.
and they had moved from the city onto, we rode on the same school bus. So they were across the crossroad on the 10th line, whereas we were on the 7th line. And so we went, Paul and I both went to Erin High School.
Where did you meet your husband and or wife? Can we hear from you, please, Viola?
Well, of course, living in that area for so long, and as growing up, you knew the name, the Shortills, and going to dances. Everybody that went to dances, you knew who they were or where they were from. But it always seemed to me like I was more involved with people from Acton Way, and he was from Ballinfat, until at a dance in Erin, and he asked me to dance. And it was when I'd come from working at the war plant in Toronto, and I had come home, and of course Lala, my sister, and I used to go to all the dances with my brother would take us, but he never worried who we went home with. And Harry said, oh, could they take me home? So that was when we started going out. And on the Saturday night he had a date with another girl, and he said it was the worst time he ever had. So then he was back seeing me again. So that was how it started, kind of just from a dance. I guess that's maybe why I always loved dancing.
That's a
And then he
real
died,
romance.
and he died at the dance. He died right at the dance in Ballinfat Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
46.
And at my sister's 91st birthday party the other night, I was dancing, and I said, my kids are going to give me heck for dancing, but I said, if I die tomorrow, I'm going to say I died dancing.
And for a long time I couldn't go to the hall.
Oh,
It had been such a part of our lives. Mom started being involved, taking tickets at the door, and I thought, you're crazy, Mom. How can you go back to the hall when Dad died there? Yes, she did.
I took tickets at the door.
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once in a while somebody'd ask her to dance.
Yeah.
And gradually she got, and of course being in the store, she was with people all the time.
And I had to be nice to people. You can't go around with a long face. You want to be able to talk about them, and so you.
What caused his death? Heart attack?
Aneurysm. Yeah. Very sudden. The doctor said if he'd been right beside him, he couldn't
Couldn't have done anything. No, it's only seconds.
Yeah.
How did the other girls get to the dances?
What other girls? You mean like the neighbors?
Any other girls who went to the dances, how did they get there? You went with your brother and your sister. Did they go with their family?
They went with their family, or else they had a boyfriend then, or whatever. Like.
We heard from Eileen this morning about some of the young fellows in the village used to have old cars.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. I remember going out with Ernie McHenry, Eileen's husband, and the wheel coming down the hill, and the wheel come off and went down the ditch in front of us.
What's a change from running out of gas, isn't it?
Well, that's one thing I do remember, his old car. And so,
I remember being in a car, think I wasn't very old, and I think it was Andy Lillian's car, and we were coming up, I think it was called Dillon's Hill on the 10th line, and it stalled and we couldn't get it up the hill.
Right, yeah.
And it drops off. I don't know if you've been on the 10th line, but it still does to this day, and in those days even worse. It drops off severely. And I can remember I probably was 8 or 9.
But you have to remember,
Scared to death.
back then at a dance, there never was drink. We never ever thought of, and you never saw any. Maybe the odd one would have something outside, but they never had drink in the home.
Yeah.
We never ever, well now my husband did smoke, but you rolled your own, like it was, so you didn't smoke that much. And then when I had my kids, he said, "This has got to quit. I'm not going to do this anymore." He carried a package of cigarettes and papers for about 2 weeks, I think. And never opened it. He knew he had it there if he really wanted it, but he never opened it. So, you know, the dances were fun dances without the drinking and...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there were dances in Ballinafad too, at the hall in Ballinafad.
That's right.
The old hall.
So where were these dances? In Erin?
At the park, the old...
Wasn't there a pavilion or?
Yeah, it was.
Called the
Yeah,
pavilion.
still remnants of it, aren't there?
I don't know. I haven't been around in the park there. I think there's still something there.
How much did you pay to get into the dance?
That might be. I think at Ballinafad it was maybe $4. $4, I think.
In those days?
Each, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
that's a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't $3 or $4, I think.
Or is that when you took tickets at the door?
Yeah, when I took
Oh,
tickets.
that's later.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, yeah,
no, when
that's
you were
right.
young.
When I was,
Yeah.
it would be maybe $2. I remember going to Action to the show and you could get in for 25 cents, like. It was so different.
But if you only made $3 a week,
Mm-hmm.
it still was a lot.
And that was it. See, the first job your dad had after we were married, he made 34 cents an hour at the wool combing. And we had to try and live on that. But then I could go shopping. I went shopping every Friday, and $34 was what my limit was for my shopping for the week. If I ran out of something before the next week, I'd do without until I went shopping.
So, teen time.
Teen Town, yeah.
Would you like to tell us about it?
Did anybody else talk about it?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, it was just something for us to do. There were a lot of kids in the community in the teen years. So between 12, I would say, and 18 or 19. And most of us who started it were 15 or 16. And there were a couple of kids who were a little bit older. The Smith girls were a little older. They didn't participate as much, but they were there. They were there, yeah. And because they were usually dating by then and driving places. So, but it was those of us who really couldn't drive yet, and we needed something to do. And I don't really know who was the first to say, let's do it, but it was kind of like all together, you know. We wanted to do something.
I think maybe Bill Smith or...
Might have been Bill Smith, because he was just a little bit older than us, so he would, if Carolyn McHenry, Fruler, and I were 15, he would have been 16 and a half. And there were a lot of kids who were very musical. Like lots of us would go to the dances with our parents, And we just wanted to, the Beatles came along and all that music, and we wanted to dance differently, you know. And high school dances were okay, but you couldn't often get to them. And especially since if you're on the south side of the road, you'd go to Georgetown. At Belfast, it was always a division. The north side kids went to Erin. And then if you were the other side of the 7th line, sometimes you'd go to Guelph and Acton. Okay, so often we didn't go to the same high schools. And so I remember going to a couple dances at Georgetown with Carolyn, but it wasn't until we were all a little bit older. And see, Carolyn and I were, other than the Smith girls, we were the only girls.
They didn't have a television, and when the Beatles were on, she used to come over to our place, and she'd sit right in front of the television and just screaming.
Well, we were 14. In 1962,
oh my goodness.
63.
What a time of life, eh?
Yeah. I remember we went to the C&E on the bus, and we weren't that old, we were probably 15. And the first thing we did is we bought big Beatles posters. So the whole day we had to carry them around. It was so silly.
Did you go by the regular bus, or was it a special bus?
I think it was a C&E special bus. They often had special buses. And in fact, I think it came down from Erin.
Yeah.
Went down through Belfast. Not we went into Acton. I'm not very good at remembering stuff like that. I remember us on the bus.
Yeah.
And I remember us coming home.
Have you still got your Beatles poster?
No. I know.
Have you got Beatles records left?
No. No, moved too much.
Sacrilege.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had a couple of CDs, but...
Probably better quality than the original.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, Teen Town became quite the thing, and I'm not quite sure when it ended. But as we all moved away, we grew up and moved away, and we left it to the younger ones to run, we really didn't go back, you know. And I'm not sure, because the Jamesons, of course, there was Alan and Murray, were my age and Morley's age, and then the girls were younger, and it was quite a family full of leadership. The Smiths, there was Gordon Steve.
Yeah, because the girls were all older by that
But you know what happened too? More people had cars. The fact of the matter is, more people had cars and more people went other places. And see, after we graduated from Teen Town, we had a couple bands that we went places with and went to dances. Dances still were a big part. And see, Ed McIntyre can talk about that, because Anne was in the Shanes, and Bill and Carolyn were in it, and Carolyn married Bernie, who was in it, and Anne married Lloyd, who was in the band, and so we all traveled as this big group. And you know, like we were just a fun-loving bunch of kids, and also we didn't drink, so there was no worry about drinking and driving.
I remember the talent night at the hall.
We did talent nights, and we didn't do things like garage sales and things like that. We didn't seem to. And I know fundraising was never a part of it. You just, whatever we made,
And my youngest daughter, the one talent night they had, she was just 4, because it was just after we moved to Belfast, and she was just 4, and she sang a Beatles song. I'm just 17. You know what I mean. You know what they brought the house down. They did.
Yeah, she's downstairs right now.
Yeah.
Scared her to death, and she's never sung since.
But she sure put a good show on that night. And Eileen McHenry played the piano for her. Yeah. So we had a lot of roots from Belfast. We just...
Has the church been a focal point in the dawn of that community over the generations?
I'd say other than the store. Wouldn't you?
I'd say for us it was probably as much.
Because all our kids were married there. Even your
Mhm.
son was married there. So it's been a big part of our life.
And Dad was on the Board of Stewards, and he was very involved with reconstructing a big part of the church because he was in that business. So they did a real renovation, probably 63 or 64.
And just what?
When they put the basement in?
Well, I think the basement was already in.
But it wasn't finished.
No, it wasn't finished. So there was a big lot of stuff that happened then. Never paid much attention to it. But I know often we were, as kids even, we were involved in little projects, whether it was painting the pews or gardening outside and things like that. So it was a huge Sunday school. We had a great times then. And that would be the time when all of those folks, like Anne and the Jamesons and all of us, and
Bud Snow's all there.
Yeah, we all were in Sunday
And
school.
Red French, all their kids, like there was 100,
Well, we had a record of 120, but I don't know how many guests we would have, or how many people came from outside the community, if it was an anniversary or what. But it was a huge.
But now they have a job getting
20.
50. Yeah.
20.
I have a clipping from the Tweedsmuir Histories of an anniversary where they had 120 Sunday school.
Yes, that was probably it. Yeah. And I would not even hazard to guess what year it was, but I know I would have had to have been about 16 or 17, probably, because when we were in charge of the Sunday school, I think we were about that age. And I taught Sunday school classes, the little kids, for a long time.
Yeah.
That's good because there's no date on that clipping.
I'm pretty sure it would be because it would be right in the. It was the era where we had to put chairs up and down the aisles where the standing room only would come to the service.
Oh yeah,
and I think Jim preached at one of them, or old Jim or young Jim or somebody.
Some Jim.
Yeah.
Well, he started like before he went to Africa, like Jim Kirk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because he was a good speaker, like all his life.
His first charge was out in Saskatchewan, so he wasn't that far away compared to Africa.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Church suppers too, if anybody, because that's another focal point. Yeah, they were big events, and we had. We had two, didn't we? A spring and a fall.
I always said two.
Huge. And I remember when we were very involved, and Mom would have to make a dozen pies, and you would sometimes be in the pie booth, and lots of Bonnie and I would waitress.
Right.
The young girls would waitress, and that was a huge thing.
Old Beatrice Hills. She was always there scraping plates.
Yeah, that was her job. Yeah,
that was her job. Always scraping the plates as they come out.
And she was very elderly.
How many people would come to a church supper?
Well, I can remember 3 sittings, and I think that's all we could do.
I think that's all we did was 3 sittings.
And I would say, you would probably know that.
About 100 at each sitting. Well.
Yeah, I don't think the church could sit more than 100.
Yeah, I think that was all we could handle at once.
What did you serve?
Well, if it was, all depended if it was a beef dinner, like.
Turkey or beef.
Yeah.
So would you have turkey in the fall for Thanksgiving?
Yes, yeah, and beef in the
spring.
And beef in the spring.
And pies all the time.
Always pies.
Homemade pie.
And
did you ever have
homemade pies?
Yeah.
I mean, they were
no others,
homemade.
Are those things in the store cardboard?
That's right.
Well, you can get the odd nice one.
Well, in those days it was harder. But
It was hard,
yeah.
Did you ever have a recipe book
Yes.
done by the church?
Yes, yes,
Go
we
on.
did. I just have an old one that didn't.
Wait till we finish.
Yeah.
Go then.
I think I have an old one of Graham's too, somewhere in something. I don't know.
How did you advertise it? Going
The
back,
newspaper, I think in the newspaper, congregation, just
There was
congregation,
always-
congregation.
See, Grandma Shortill always put the news, the Balnafad news in the,
Yeah.
any paper, like,
She, at different
Free
times,
press.
she wrote it, the Erin paper and the Free Press in Acton and Herald in Georgetown. And
what was the Erin paper in those days? Was it
Advocate.
the Advocate?
Yeah.
Okay, last couple of questions here. Do you have any funny stories about life in the past? Growing up, living, staying?
what
People
was it I
who-
thought about after we were down there the other day? Oh, I know about one meeting when my brother and I, he was 2 years younger than me, but we were kind of always buddies, like, we went to a short course in Acton and we rode the bicycle and he would ride me on the crossbar part way and then I would ride him the rest of the way. And that was about 4 miles we always figured into Acton. But we rode on the bicycle into that short course. Well, anyway, this time I was thinking about my sister, Bessie. She was older, so she was working in Milton. And, of course, we had to go and get, when she'd come home on the weekend, we had no telephone or anything, but we knew we were to meet her at the Hazard drugstore in Acton on Saturday morning. And so we had the horses and the buggy, or the, and this was a cutter, like in the winter time. So we started off with this white horse, Polly we called her, and she was hitched up to the cutter, and we started off into Acton. And on our way we thought, well, we'll go down we didn't like the hill at Churchill, the Churchill Hill, and it was always so awful with snow, so we went down the 4th line, and we started across the highway into Acton, and old Polly, she just kept going across the highway. We couldn't steer. Now this isn't a funny story, this is an awful story really. But we couldn't do anything with her, and her head was hanging down and she'd just keep going right across the highway. Oh, and what a time we had. My brother, he was out of the cutter, and he didn't want to unhitch her from the cutter, because we had to get the cutter in to get Bessie, like, in Acton. And he tried to lead her, like he had to kind of try, and she'd just go a few steps, and she'd just try to almost fall across the road, like, oh, it was awful. It was awful. We finally got her into Acton. And, of course, there weren't the cars. There wasn't the traffic like there is now. We might have one every 10 minutes, or, something like that. And we got in the back street, around the back street, and it was the Baptist hall where they used to put the horses in behind the church there. And we got her in there, and I ran down to Hazard's drugstore to tell, because I knew she'd be frantic by now that we hadn't showed up. And we got back to I got Bessie, and she was worried about us, and she was crying by this time, and I was crying. And we got back to where Polly was in the shed, and she'd fallen down. But he'd got her unhitched from the cutter.
How old was Uncle Fred at this point?
Well, I might have been 14, because I think Bessie was maybe 17, and he would be 12.
Mhm.
But what an experience. And of course then we didn't know how we were going to get home. We had no phone to phone Dad or Mom to tell them what had happened. Well, Mr. Swackhammer from Churchill, he was in at the mill and he had his horses there, and he had a big load of chop that he was picking up at the mill. And he said, well, I'll take us home, but we can't take the horse home because she was still laying down. She wasn't dead by this time, but she couldn't get up. And Mr. Swackhammer took us on the chop, bags of chop on the wagon, on the sleigh, and took us home. And oh, Dad was he was just so upset. It was a terrible night we put in that night. And he got Mr. Evans and some of the neighbors to go with him the next day into